So pleased to welcome in the man that took the Rays to the 2008 World Series and gave us so many good moments of Rays baseball. The great Joe Maddon joining us here, and of course, the man who broke the curse of the Cubs, a World Series champion. How are you, Joe? Great to see you.
JP, I'm doing wonderfully. I'm in Pennsylvania. Got this really cool home on in a valley, and I'm loving every day of it. The tomato plants are starting to turn red, and that makes it even better.
How much better is the sauce with fresh tomatoes?
Always, everything's better with fresh anything. I got the parsley there. I got some potatoes, sweet potatoes, some blueberries, all kinds of stuff. It's my first attempt. I just built a greenhouse as an addition to the place, so I'm checking it all out this year.
Beautiful, man. Well, I've always used the canned tomatoes for the sauce. Roxy D'Amelia, my mom taught me that, the nice canned peeled tomatoes,
Yeah,
put them in the blender to start with your base. We won't go through the whole sauce recipe, but the fresh tomatoes is something I want to try too. So we'll definitely do that.
same page, same
Yeah.
page.
All right. Hey, well, first and foremost, Joe, there's a little fire sale going on in Tampa Bay right now.
I know.
Six players, including Randy Rosarena, Jason Adam, Itzhak Paredes to your Cubs, Zach Eflin, Aaron Savali, Phil Maton. I know you've been through this song and dance here in Tampa Bay, and the fans are going bananas. So maybe a kind word to explain to the fans what exactly is happening here.
First of all, when you look at all those names collectively like that, it's pretty good. I mean, those are good players. That's
Yeah.
that's a really nice chunk of good. While I was there, I can't remember that much of a mass exodus. I don't remember
No.
that. I remember, David left, James left, Shieldsy, and I think Garza left at different points, but it was never like this glut. So I never had to really absorb all of that. I mean, it's just the way of the world there right now, and it's not just there, but it's every team that has that opportunity to cut costs and build a talent base. They're going to do it this time of the year. It just seems like it's part of the fabric. I sometimes I don't quite understand why you don't keep players like that and augment. It really comes down to how your perception of things are or is. And I think for them, for sure, they thought, yeah, we have a chance to get to the playoffs this year. But their inner conversation was probably to the point where even if we do, we're not going to advance too deeply. And why not take advantage of this moment? So as a fan base down there, you're used to it by now. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
So it's happened before, and it's always turned out well. So just fasten your seatbelts and know that it's going to be okay.
But the Paredes deal, I thought there's a good young player, hit 30 bombs last year, can play first base. I know they want to open up a spot for Caminero, but Paredes, I thought that was a strange one for me. But they get Christopher Morel back from the Cubs, who hit 26 last year, 18 already this year. That's a piece, at least a major league piece, that the fans can say, okay, this guy's got a chance to be a great player.
He does. I mean, he's a great body, a live body kind of a guy. Watching a little bit, he's a big swinger, which they all are these days. I mean,
Right.
everything's evaluated based on the number of home runs you hit anymore. I mean, and I know how that plays in the slug and OPS, et cetera. But that's all you hear. I don't really know how good they are on defense. I don't know how good of base runners they are. I do have no idea about their instincts for the game. I mean, these are the kind of questions we would always ask in meetings when you're talking about upgrading or acquisition. It went beyond power. It's always about power. And when you talk about pitchers, it's always about how hard they throw and velocity and things of that nature. So listen, of course they're strong and they're young and they probably are going to hit a lot of home runs. And that's just the way the game's played right now. You got to put the ball in the seats. Although occasionally a team will show the ability to move the ball, create runs and whatever, and all of a sudden that becomes like very popular discussion for the day. So it's whatever you want, but that's how guys are evaluated, and that's how guys are paid. You're compensated for homers, and that's what they try to do.
Well, I read your book, so I know you're saddened by this. All those things that you mentioned earlier were the way I grew up playing baseball. With the prototypical leadoff hitters, you don't even see that anymore.
Mhm.
It's not a good way for me. I just don't like baseball that way. I know you would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just a different game, and you're supposed to accept that because people say it's different. It's a different game. They talk about progress and using those kind of words, and I don't know. For me, progress is not always a positive. Being progressive is not always a positive word. What does it mean? It just means somebody had a different thought, they implemented it, and because it's new, they think it's a progressive thought, not necessarily understanding whether or not it's making something better. And I was talking to somebody about this just yesterday. Our game, it's obviously was different in 1970, 1990, 2010 than it was in 18, whatever. Of course it was. But nevertheless, it was still a traditionally based game with some really strong tenets attached to it that was attractive. That was very attractive. And there was a kind of this traditional component to it that is absolutely being torn apart right now. It doesn't have that traditional feel. Now, there's great athletes in the game. No question, no argument whatsoever. And I love that part of it. It's just the way the game's being taught or not taught, and what's important and what's not important anymore. So, if you want to remain a fan of the game, you're gonna have to make adjustments because this is how the game's gonna be played to the point where it really appears as though the players are pretty much in control over everybody else, whether it's front offices or managers or coaches, whatever. So that's why what Alex Cora did yesterday, I guess it was, really stands out because he had a conversation with the O'Neill in the dugout, who's been doing well. He's been home runs, nice player, and he's gonna pitch it for him with Abreu. But he goes straight to him, tells him exactly what's going on and why, and the player accepted it. That to me is the way it should be done. It's a tough conversation. It's a tough conversation league game where you have to be able to be honest with your guys. They have to be able to accept it. May not like it, but when you tell a major league or professional player honestly what you think and then go ahead and do it, he might not like you briefly, but eventually he's going to come back to you as opposed to you dissembling and not giving him a straight up. That's what I saw in that moment.
Joe Maddon joining us here. And Joe, I could hear you were the best communicator I've ever seen in terms of, I've worked with a lot of good coaches over my days, but the way you communicated and built trust with your players, is that something that you can still do in this day and age with these players? Is it just a different give and take between the manager and the player these days? Are those things just everlasting?
I think they are. The communication is communication. I mean, I've always felt contemporary. I mean, there's certain music I still don't like it, but I never liked it. There's methods of dress that I'm wide open to. Culturally, whatever's going on today, I think I'm kind of up to date and progressive in that regard. So I
Of
think
course.
when it comes right down to it, I think it's just how open you are with whomever you're speaking with. So we're talking about a major league baseball player right now. I've always felt, and even back when I began, it really stood out to me that even veteran players back in the '80s and '90s that I worked with, and when I went to major league camp, they wanted to hear what you had to say, because they trusted what I was saying and the fact that I was straight up with them. I don't think that ever gets old. I don't think that ever gets old. I think as a human being, whomever you're working with, you just want to know that they're giving it to you straight up. You want to know that you can trust them, and that if you went to them, I don't want a warm fuzzy. Just tell me what's going on. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what you think, not what you've heard. So I have to believe that never goes out of date. That should always be in vogue. And so that's for me. I mean, given an opportunity, again, that's exactly where I would come from. Um, as open and just a wide open. Here it is. This is what I think. What I feel. Okay, now your turn. What do you think? What do you feel? And I'd be open in return. I think that's the best way to communicate.
Joe Maddon joining us here. And Joe, you mentioned it. Are you open to coming back? It would just have to be the perfect situation. I know it would have to be someone that's open to not trying to shove analytics down your throat, and it would give you some leeway and some autonomy to be the manager that you are.
Yeah, you have to. You have if you're going to be that, be that. I mean, I think GM should GM. I think owners should own. I think managers should manage. I think coaches should coach. I think analysts should analyze. But when you start walking in other people's territory constantly, you just don't trust them.
Right.
Why do you even have? Why did you hire them in the first place? What is the job description here? What do you want me to do? If you don't feel that kind of autonomy to make decisions as a manager, then you won't think to the point. You won't analyze it, or you won't intellectualize it to the point, because it's not yours.
Right.
You only get to that level of intellectual thinking if you know it's your baby. You're rocking your own baby in your arms. This is very important that I make a good decision right here. I'm not to say that that's void of asking other people's opinions. Of course not. No, it's not true. I always want other people's opinions, and I want to hear what people have to say before I eventually do what I think is the right thing to do. But
Right.
that's what you're paid to do. So I think it's the line's been blurred between owners owning, GMs GMing, managers managing, and coaches coaching. And the other thing with I've talked about this before, the analysts. I love them. I listen, if I get a chance to do it again, I'm gonna personally go to MIT, Harvard, Yale, Lafayette College, and I'm gonna interview these guys because I want the best. But once you have these guys, understand one thing, they're gonna answer to the coaches, and the coaches don't have to answer to them. I think you should create a synergy among your analysts and the coaching staff where there's a trust flowing back and forth. And when you arrive at that point on a major league level or any level, any industry, then you really got something going on. But if there's suspicion either way, it just never really galvanizes to the point where everybody feels good about it.
Joe Maddon joining us here today. We just recently had an interesting series with the Yankees where Jose Siri and Juan Soto were having a stroll off to see who could take the longest home run trot and all the histrionics that go with it these days. And then Michael Kay on the Yankees network basically said, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And I mean, obviously a huge Rays fan, but I'm just like, I, except there is a line. For God's sakes, there's a line. I don't mind the bat flips and some of these other things. And organic emotion, like organic emotion and
Sure.
sharing that with your teammates. Is nope, everybody loves that. But some of this stuff is just gone crazy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a kind of a downgrading of deviant methods right now where which was not acceptable before is now acceptable. And is it this is part of the progressive way of thinking, and you keep hearing that, you want the players to have fun, and I'm all about that, as you know,
Yes.
to the point where they're demonstrative in a way that really just is there to draw attention to themselves and their brand, whatever however you wanna call it. Bat flips to me are boring, I don't get it. I'm okay with, like, if it's a walk-off home run, if you wanna really okay. And if you're Dennis Eckersley and you're punching out the last hitter of the game, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and do that. But all these, other moments of demonstrative behavior, and it's just part of the way we function as a society anymore.
True.
It's become very superficial, I think, and again, it's just fawned upon, and it's asked for, and it's accepted. Okay, so that's progress. That's what I'm talking about. Those are kind of progressive methods that we're supposed to accept that I don't agree with. I watched the Yankee game the other night. Last night, Chisholm, right? Jazz was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're leading 7-2, and he has a tough play at second base. He's safe. Tough ran into the guy's elbow. That's got back up. I liked it, but then he steals third base, and they're up 7-2. I think it's in the ninth inning,
Yeah.
and everybody goes wild. He starts gesturing into the dugout. They're all like throwing blowing kisses back at him. That would have gotten you hurt. That would have actually gotten you hurt at some point, or the guy coming up or the next pitch would have gotten you hurt. Right or wrong, I don't know. I just like that method of playing the game where there was now listen, the object of the game is to always score runs. I get that, and I'm all about that. And I had my arguments about this when I was a race manager when sometimes people thought we stepped on these unwritten rules. However, that was accepted to the point, and everybody's like glowing upon it. And then today I'm listening to the recap, and he had one hit, which was kind of an infield hit, and he stole a base, which was they're up by 7-2, and there was nobody was holding him on, and nobody was covering third base. So this is the kind of the parts of the game right now that um, it just needs to be reeled in a little bit. Let's make it
Yeah.
more real.
Yeah. I agree. Joe Matt joining us here. Joe, uh, if I may, can we stroll down memory lane back to 2007? Um, and you see this team starting to come together, this Rays team, before you make it to the World Series. When did you know something was happening special, and what were some of the touch points that led to that magical season, and what followed all the playoff appearances after?
Well, I tell you, weirdly, this doesn't stand out, but I thought was and I've said it 1,000 times, not 1,000, maybe 52 times before, when we acquired Danny Wheeler for Ty Wigginton. I love Ty Wigginton. He is such a wonderful teammate. But we traded him for Danny. I think it was to Houston, right? So Danny comes in, and not that Danny was lights out all, but he was really good. Didn't throw hard. He was a pitcher. He made pitches. But what Danny did, he taught all those bullpen guys how to work and how to prepare for the day. Because we had a lot of kids at that time that were definitely on the entitlement program, and they just loved being major league players. They loved flying on chartered airlines. They loved nice hotels, meal money. They loved all that stuff, but they didn't love winning and didn't love how to win. So Danny came in and changed the culture. So even towards the end of that season, we played actually okay for a long time, but we weren't winning games because we couldn't close them down. Danny taught that group how to do that. And when they did, we started winning games at the end of '07. So we went into '08 with some momentum there internally. And I really believe that's one of the seminal moments in the shift of the franchises is acquiring Danny Wheeler. And then that next off season, a couple things. The uniforms mattered. Changing the name mattered. And then on top of that, Percival, Cliff Floyd, and Eric Hinsky. Wonderful acquisitions that don't happen anymore. Nobody goes and buys the experienced players anymore to augment. It's either the superstar or the inexpensive rookie. The middle class has really kind of been phased out. But those three guys had as much influence on us winning as, of course, Longo. Couldn't do it without Longo, of course. Garza, JB,
Crawford.
absolutely. Carl and BJ and all these guys, absolutely. But the glue, the gel right there that really made it work was those three guys and their impact they had in the clubhouse. That was very, very big and large. That was outstanding. So to me, Wheeler, and I guess I'm talking about a bunch of veterans that came in and told or taught our younger players, this is how you do it, not like you've been doing it. And that was it. And I like even with the Cubbies when we got David Ross that offseason in 2015,
Yeah.
going to I talked to him on the phone. I parked my car. I was in Tampa. I was in my convertible, and we talked for a while. And I knew this is a difference maker, Mickey Montero, difference maker. So these are the kind of things when you're trying to win, really win. It's the fusion between the superstar, the real established good players, and these youngsters that you absolutely need to instill some a breath of fresh air. But who are the glue guys?
Right.
Don't forget the glue guys. Pay attention there.
I really think that's what the Rays have been missing this year, and most recently. They have they need those Floyd, the Percivals, those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important additions.
Well, with 1 year we had Gabe Kapler. Cap was
Yeah.
so big. I remember specifically talking to Gabe. He'd come in my office often, and I said, "Listen, I really need you to do a couple things for me." I says, "Just when something is breaking down a little bit among the players, you know, it's gonna work so much better if it's coming from you." So
Right.
whomever the player was, I said, "Listen, when you get a chance, mosey by the locker. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I think. Then go ahead and put it in your own words and go talk to the fellow." And he was great at it. He was
Yeah.
Cap.
Yeah.
Cap was a great communicator. So another wonderful example of the kind of player you need. Look at the Phillies right now. The Phillies are good because they're just loaded with those guys.
Yeah.
They're loaded with charisma, personality. They play it hard. They play it right. And then they're alumni. Bo is around, Crucky's around,
Yeah.
Schnitty's around. All these dudes are around. That matters, man. When you have a real strong alumni, that's what the Cubbies had too. That I love. Now the Rays, their alumni is scattered more than these other traditionally based groups.
Yeah.
I love the alumni, and I want
Bringing them back.
active. I love when they're around.
Yeah, I've said that many times. The Rays don't seem to embrace those guys very much. I'd love to see them do that.
Well, that was
Sure.
one of the first things I asked for. I got Roberto Hernandez to make Davey Martinez when Davey was
Yeah.
there. I asked for Davey immediately. He didn't want to do it at first, but I so appreciated the way he played the game, and I wanted him to be there on the coaching staff, and he was. And I had Boggsy around, I had Freddie around, all the dudes
Yeah.
came around. Tino came around, but you need them there all the time, not just cameos. So getting those kind of guys in your clubhouse is great. And then the cameo appearances, I misspoke that. I do like the cameos. I do like those guys. Ryan Sandberg. I love Ryan Sandberg.
Yeah.
How do I love Ryan Sandberg? Randy Hundley, Fergie Jenkins, Billy Williams, Billy D, the best. Billy D, I called him Billy D. Billy Williams, I love. So you need that combination of the alumni, and then within your clubhouse, some really guys, some real guys, some grown-ups to say, "We don't do that here."
Well, Joe, I appreciate your time. You catch a Springsteen show lately? He's still rocking it, bro.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna try to. Yeah, yeah, I did. I started out with the Wild in the City Street Shuffle and Greetings from Asbury Park. I'm gonna try to get down to see Eddie better in Philadelphia in
Nice.
September. Eddie and I still stay in touch. Really like we become good friends. So that would be the next one I think I'd try to get to. Otherwise, just a lot of golf, a couple personal appearances. I was just down to the All Star game for a day. But more than anything, golf. I mean, and my home. I'm like my tomato plants are right there. We're talking about that. I'm really
You come
enjoying.
back and play here? Can you come back, be my guest here at Palma City?
Of course,
Please come play with me.
I just joined St. Pete Country Club. I'm a member of St. Pete. They're
Nice.
redoing it, tee box, the greens, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So when I come back down there, I love policy. Yes, I'd be happy. We'll stay in touch. I'd love to do that. No
Right.
question.
Sounds good. Joe, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And hope you get back into games soon, my friend. Love
Thank
to
you,
see
buddy.
you back in.
Hi to everybody back down there. Still one of my favorite places on earth. Thank you.
Thank you.